Okay, welcome to Magic Minds. Today's guest is Shane Kirkwood. Welcome to Magic Minds, Shane Kirkwood.
Thanks very much for having me on, man. Really appreciate it.
I'm absolutely delighted to have you on, and I am really looking forward to our conversation.
The art of real conversation, as we like to discuss.
Hashtag the art of real conversation.
No, it's good. It's good to sit down and have an open, honest conversation. People aren't doing it as much as it would have used to happen, or they're doing it through a phone or through a laptop. Or it's good to sit down with a person and read their body language, gauge their facial expressions, read from them, pick up their emotions, you know, how we're supposed to interact.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, the reason that I've asked Shane to come on the show today is because we're going to touch on some subjects I actually probably even find them difficult to talk about too, is mental health, depression, suicide, definitely combat sports. I find it difficult to get punched in the face. Life in general, and Shane has had some life experience with all those, so I want him to share a story with you. But before we get into the deep, meaningful conversation, the DMCs, you're involved in Scrap Chat podcast, you're a YouTuber, reporter, photographer, model, combat sport, fighter, August, expert, and you have a beard as long as your ego.
I used to have a bigger one.
I still hope you're talking about your beard.
I was talking about my ego.
Have I missed anything else there?
No, I think you've probably pretty much covered everything. I'm very gracious for that introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Come here, talk to me about the podcast, Scrap Chat. I love it. It's a great setting, professional. Yourself and Kevin are doing a savage job. It looks the business, absolutely the business. What's the crack with that?
Yeah, so basically I used to work for another media outlet covering combat sports, and they had a direction that they wanted to go in, and I had a direction that I wanted to go in. And you know, I think there comes a time in life when you have to risk, you know, I could stay comfortable and I can keep doing this and go in the direction that they want me to go in, or I can let this go and I can, you know, start up my own thing, and I can try see if I can go in the direction I wanted to go in. And luckily enough, when I come up with the idea originally, it was over a year ago. Spoke to Kev. Originally had another guy involved, but me and Kev have just taken it from strength to strength. And the whole idea is just to sit down and converse about mixed martial arts, but try give Irish combat sports, you know, try talk about it's boxing and MMA and K1, and there's so many different martial arts out there that we wanted to give all of them the one platform, whereas predominantly you tend to see an MMA podcast or a boxing podcast, and they're not friends, and MMA will look down on boxing, and boxing will look down on MMA, whereas we're a fan of it all, so we just try to pile all into one big show, and hopefully people will tune in and like what's being discussed.
Deadly. Yeah, no, as I say, I like the setup. I like when you got hooked up with Kev, and I watched it, and I kind of found it really, really interesting. The two of you kind of bounce off each other. Would I be right in saying that you are finding your feet as a duo? You know, I wouldn't say is at first you wouldn't see you were working along together, but now I've watched you and it's just it works. It really works.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there. I think it's learning a person. You can know a person, but learning their habits conversationally is different, you know, and you don't want to interrupt or jump in, or you want to let that person have their say, and it's trying to find that niche, you know, that happy medium where you're both getting to express yourself and not cut the other person off all the time. But Kev is, you know, experience in martial arts from not just media side but also competing side. The same as myself, so that when you have people who have been in the sport, it makes it easier because you can converse easier because you know what you're talking about. It's not trying to explain, like if I said to you an omoplata now, you'd look at me exactly how you are looking exactly. Whereas if I say an omoplata to Kev, he knows what I'm talking about, so it's handy that way, you know.
Tell you. So where do you fit the modelling in and all that? Is that still going ahead?
To be honest with you, I don't know how any of that stuff happened. I had an Instagram account. Some girl in America popped along my Instagram thing, and before you know it, I'm published in crazy amount of articles worldwide. And you know, I ended up signing with an agency here in Dublin called Fraser's. And
are you still with them?
Yeah.
Deadly. I've seen a picture of you on your, I don't know what's on your WhatsApp group. You've got a sleeveless top on, tattoos, and it's going to a good picture. Well,
yeah. I don't look like that in real life though. I just take a good picture. It's great.
You look like a hobo.
I'm robbing and living half the time, you know.
Look, a fake it till you make it.
But the whole modelling thing, like, it was something I was never comfortable. I always had kind of issues with my weight growing up, and then when you go into these shoots, because I have a lot of tattoos, the first thing that they usually say to you is take your top off, and it's like, oh, like, you know, it's not that I'm not comfortable with my body now, it's just, but why? Like what's so important about that element? Like, you know, that's why I tend to turn most jobs down, because I try to fit me into the job. I don't try to fit around the job. Like I don't like walking into a studio and have them telling me their perception of me and who I should be for that day.
Wow.
Like when they look at my portfolio or they want for a job, I'm pretty much going to turn up and be the person they saw on my portfolio. I don't want to be anything else. I'm not comfortable with that. Like,
so you won't just do that like for $1?
No. Keep your integrity intact and try remain as close to yourself as you can.
Deadly. That fair play to you. Jesus.
I respect myself much more that way, you know.
Much well done. I'm proud of you. Right, like, what was life growing up? You're from the Liberties and we're friends. Can I call you a friend?
Of course you can. I hope you'll call me a friend. I'll be upset if you don't.
Yeah, we were acquaintances and you were a friend of my brothers, but now I would class you as a friend. And you live in the Liberties just like I do. What was life like growing up for you here in the Liberties?
Well, my mother was 18 when she had me. And then I grew up on the Ross Road in my grandmother's home. She then eventually moved to the Coombe, and I grew up in this home that was just hustle and bustle and busy, and people coming in and people coming out. And it was great, you know. But my mum met another chap when I think I was 1.5, and then she had my sister Kelly, and then she had my sister Leah. So I grew up in a home that, you see, it's hard to open up and talk about this type of things because, and this is something I would tell people who are discussing stuff, is sometimes it's hard to be honest about a situation you came through, because being honest kind of implies that you weren't brought up the correct way. Yeah. And I'm not saying my mother ever did me wrong, but, you know, I grew up in a home where sometimes I didn't feel like I connected, you know. And as I said, like, I'm even saying it now, and I'm like, Jesus, Shane, like, you're being very harsh here. What I mean by that is I didn't have my father in that home. And as much as my mother tried to compensate in every way, and I swear to God, my mother gave me everything that a mother could ever give. She'd done an amazing job, and I'm extremely grateful. But I still didn't have my real father. So I grew up kind of confused as to why, and, you know, why was I not accepted, and what did I do? And I always had them feelings from a very young age, which is very strange. I was always very much in tune with that, like, you know, be it the football on a Saturday. You know, my dad's not there. I remember my ma came up once, and the match she'd come up to watch got called off. No. So she'd come up and she'd stand on the sidelines, and it was great. Like, I was delighted to have someone there, but the one match she did come to see, it was called off. But I love town. It's a very hard place to grow up if you're not in the popular group, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
But absolutely. Just as your point there, you were saying, you know, when I know, you know, from my own experience of growing up and my own difficulties with growing up, it's not about the blame. You're just telling your story. You're not saying, this is what happened to me, it was your fault. Yeah. Like, you know, this is your perception on it, and this is how you perceive things to be, and that wasn't anyone's fault. Yeah, exactly. I mean? And that makes it just easier for them to hear. It's not a blame game. You know what I mean? This is the way it was. It's not your fault. It just was what it was. Like, your life is right?
Yeah, and like, your life is a big jigsaw, and you can leave it as a mess, and you can look at it and you can leave it in the corner in a box, or you can try figure yourself out by putting the pieces together. And by putting one connecting piece to a piece that's supposed to connect it isn't insulting anybody by saying, you know, I grew up with a lacking of a father and I kind of had issues over that. It's not insulting my mother's upbringing of me or saying she did a bad job. It's just being honest with myself and where I come from and what actually made me who I am today, and acknowledging that in myself is something that has helped me. Like, you know, that's something that I struggled with. You know, and it wasn't my mother's fault that my father wasn't there. She couldn't, my stepfather was there, but, you know, it still wasn't my real father, you know.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the kind of hard things for people, is when they're coming to terms with struggles or stuff that they've gone through in life, is admitting some stuff that has affected them because it might hurt someone else.
Of course, you don't want to start working through your own shit, because, you know, inadvertently it's going to impact on your family. They come across as they weren't supportive or they let you down, and that wasn't the case, because everyone has their own struggles. They had struggles when they were when they had their parents. They had struggles. Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing.
It's not a blame game.
No, like, behind every smile, behind every closed door, you know, there's numerous problems, numerous issues. Like, everybody has the same. This is why I find it hard when it comes to dealing with Jeez, we went deep fast, didn't we? We went deep. There's no foreplay here at all.
No, we're straight into the deep meat of a conversation. Go on, what were you saying?
No, but I just think people should just be honest more. Like, but most of all, be honest with themselves. If you can't be honest with yourself, then you need to relook at your way you're evaluating situations. Like,
but sometimes we just can't. It's a subconscious. Sometimes we don't know acting the way we act because it's a subconscious thing.
Because we have this sense of self that isn't true to ourselves.
Of course.
Because we have this idea of who we want to be, but not who we are.
The ideal self.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an ideal self, and we have the shadow.
It's like that Japanese proverb. You have three masks: the mask you show your friends, the mask you show your family, and then the real person you are, like that you show nobody.
Absolutely, definitely. That's a
but
great
Carl Jung, that shadow you were just about to get into, yeah,
the shadow theory. When did you know it? Like growing up, you said you had your difficulties not being accepted. Where did that start showing up? Did you get yourself into trouble? Were you acting out? Were you aggressive? I didn't know you as a kid.
I was very introverted. I was like afraid of crowds. I was a bit, I don't know. I kept myself to myself. I used to, like my family name, everybody would know them, so I would have kind of been popular in the area, but I reverted away from that.
Okay. Like
I wasn't, like, say for instance, if you take my cousin Sean, 6 months between us, and he was very much, out there, and everybody knew him. And if I was to come along, I would be Sean's cousin rather than, there's Shane, he only lives down the road. If you get me, I kind of hid away. I was kind of really shy, and not that there was like anything wrong or I was afraid of anything. It was who I was. You know what I mean? One of the great things I heard from one of my counselors actually over the years was we have something. We're labelled with something from the womb to the tomb. So basically, before we're born to the day we die, we're labelled with something. And mine was acceptance, which I've realised over the years of trying to figure out. And then that came from my father not being in my life. So subconsciously, I was always searching for people to accept me. And out of fear of not being accepted, I just held myself back. I'd stay in my bedroom, I'll play PlayStation, I'll read Harry Potter books. So I was very quiet growing up, and then through that I became very creative. So I would draw, I would write, and then before I knew it, I created this comfortable nest for myself that I didn't have to get out of. And in school I wasn't very popular, and I'd be picked on, and I don't know how many times I went home to my mum crying like a silly Billy, Wow. But that's nothing different to most people's upbringing. Like, everybody experienced like little bits of bullying. Everybody goes through their phases. I was very aware I was trying to figure something out from a very young age.
Oh, sure, I know about bullying. I was 4'2" at 16, and I'd red ginger hair.
6 foot or something at 12 years of age or something. I don't know. I was picked on. Yeah. If anything, I should have been the opposite.
Yeah, no, everyone gets a bit of bullying now and again. What led you to the MMA and the combat sports?
Pretty much through that aspect. Like, I pretty much went from 5th, 6th class, getting picked on and that. Then I went to secondary, and I didn't fit. And it was not because I was mad looking or I was like any of this other crazy things that I could have been. I just reserved myself away so much that I made myself the target. You get me? Like, I cast myself as the outsider.
Right.
Just because I was nervous and shy and afraid of not being accepted. So I put the X on my own back, and I remember after my junior cert, the secondary school I went to, they didn't do the normal leaving cert, they only did the leaving cert deployed.
Right. So
my principal and the school brought my mother and me into the school and basically said, we want Shane to leave. Like, this sounds like I'm blowing smoke at my own hole, but they were like, looking at his results from his tests, he's clearly, actually I'm telling a lie, from my mocks and stuff like that, he's going to have a good leaving, he's going to have a good junior cert. We only do the leaving cert deployed. He's an intelligent young fella, he knows how to put himself out there, he takes part, all these basically very nice compliments, and it was my opportunity to get away from that situation and go, okay, yeah, I'll leave, I'll go to another school. But me being me and my fear of being accepted was like, nope, I'm not going to be the new person in another school, no matter how good you think I am. I'm not. No, I'll stay here and I'll do the Leaving Cert deployed.
Wow.
Yeah, so I held myself back out of my own fears, and then I ended up not even getting a Leaving Cert.
Did you not?
No, because between 3rd year and 5th year, I grew about 2 feet, put on about 7 stone, and decided I'm not being bullied anymore. And the school actually said that the bullied became the bully. And
do you agree with that?
No, absolutely not.
Would you think that's because of your height and your weight then?
Yeah, I
was soon became the aggressor.
Yeah, because I was huge. Like I grew up and I was very hefty at the time. Like, so I would have had a lot of weight on me. And
you're 6'4" now, right?
I'm 6'4" now. Yeah,
6'4", yeah.
But I started to fight
in school.
I had got so angry. I had built up so much anger, and I was embarrassed with crying, and like these kids had seen me crying, and I'd gone home crying to me mammy, and that was the slagging, you know what I mean? Like, Shane's a crybaby, and it was embarrassing. And then eventually I had so much anger built up that it just started to explode, and I directed it outwards.
Wow.
So I started fighting, and I was getting suspended all the time, and I don't look back on it and regret. I'm not condoning violence or aggression in any way, but sometimes a certain situation calls for a certain answer, and mine was to retaliate.
Well, in fairness, the crying wasn't working for you, so you decided to find another way of looking for help, so let's lash out.
Yeah. So I did that, and then I ended up leaving school in 6th year. The whole Leaving Cert deployed is built around predominantly attendance and getting points for your attendance, and I had missed so much through being suspended all the time that was like, I'd rather have no Leaving Cert than a bad Leaving Cert deployed. So that was my school.
That was your school days?
That was my school days, yeah. But I was about 19, maybe 20, and I was at the leaving school from when I was 16. I fell through different jobs, but I was at the putting on a lot of weight, and I was at like 18 stone. And I was a big mixed martial arts fan. I constantly watching the UFC, and I knew my friend's sister's husband did it. I was like, I wonder if I can go and check it out. Like, he doesn't look like he's bleeding tough, but he does. I can do this.
We'll give it a go. So
I'll never forget it. One Saturday morning, I seen who was your brother, who I'm talking about, Kieran, and I said, "What's the story? You do that MMA, don't you?" And he was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And I went, "I'm gonna go with you. I want to do that. I want to try that out." Like, I was a big fan. So we had a conversation. He was like, "Yeah, no problem. I'm going in the morning. Do you want to come on the Sunday?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem." So through conversations about it, Kieran thought I was highly skilled because I knew what I was talking about.
Talked a good game.
Oh, and did he box the bleeding ears off me? Like, he punched me around. They did this thing called Satan's Circuit, which was this big circuit.
Yeah.
And you imagine, like, I'm 18 stone, 6'4", 18 stone. I could not keep. I was so unfit.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it was some grappling and some punching and sparring, and Kieran battered me.
Yeah, I was a victim of that as well. I went up on Sunday morning just to have a little move around, and I always used to give Kieran the slaps, obviously, because he's my little brother. But I got humbled.
Of course.
I just couldn't believe it. I've never been so humble in all my life.
How has this happened?
Oh, Jesus. I just felt so inferior of it.
Well, that's what happened to me, and I was like,
brilliant.
I need to learn this.
I ran away. I was like, I'm not getting punched in the face again. I'm too pretty for this. And his modern career is going down the drain quickly.
Don't be so harsh on yourself.
Yeah.
Chiseled young man over there.
Yeah, so you get into the MMA. Did that help channel your anger? Or?
I don't think I realised at the time. Well, yeah. Looking back now, it gave me direction. It gave me a goal. It's like if you'd never seen a shoe and a pair of laces in your life, and I put a shoe on your foot, and I said, tie that lace, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
But learning how to tie that lace and getting good at it, and eventually being able to tie that lace without even looking at my foot, was so motivating to me, because where I had kept myself back and I'd try football and team sports or anything like that, and being a part of a team made me nervous. Like, oh, don't pass the ball to me, I'll mess up, and then there'll be all these other people who will give out to me. Mixed martial arts was an individual thing. It was my responsibility. If I made a mistake, it was on me. If I was getting better, it was on me and the time I was putting into it. So that kind of journey and responsibility on my own shoulders was something that just I was hooked instantaneously, because I saw myself getting better. You know, when I started training, like eventually I started to being able to compete with Kieran. It wasn't just getting bashed. It was like, hold on a minute, I'm starting to compete here.
Oh, no.
And then you'd start to get the better, and then you're competing with the coaches, and you're like, okay, something's happening here. Like I'm learning something, and the weight fell off me.
Deadly.
Oh, like, you know, I ended up moving out. This is the type of confidence. Like, I ended up moving out. I had my own apartment from like 19. You know what I mean?
Brilliant.
Like, yeah, I lived out on my own, and I was training, and martial arts and just the direction and the drive it gave me was just unbelievable on my life and my journey.
So things were going well. At what point then do you think that you start to really kind of say, oh, it was around that year that you found you had difficulties in your mind, as in mental health difficulties? Where did that kind of,
I think,
rear its head?
to be honest with you, I don't know whether I have a specific moment.
Okay.
I don't know whether I think I have all these different triggers throughout my childhood that I can look back and be like, oh, you know, if I was...
Well, it's never one thing. There's always a cascade of
Yeah.
events. But there wasn't one part where you said, geez, you know what, I'm actually struggling here.
Like, I never knew my father's name. Never
Okay.
mind even knew what he looked like until I was 12. And I ended up meeting some members of his family. I didn't like it originally. This is strange to me. I don't know, but that curiosity was there in my mind to like, who is he? Like, what? But then I didn't hear that, and then again until I was 21.
Right.
And some members of his family got in touch with my family and were like, you know, we know it's Shane's birthday coming up. Could we come along to the party? So my mother asked me and said, do you want to allow somebody along? And I was like, yeah, like, you know. I actually was like, I can't believe they even asked. The fact that they've gotten in touch regardless of the lack of contact, I was like, Jesus, that's nice. So they ended up coming to that party, and then I ended up kind of building some sort of relationship with his brother and his part of the family.
Yeah.
And I still hadn't met him. And then my uncle Kenneth was in hospital, and me and my mother were going up to visit him. And we stopped outside because it was after hours. So the security man had to let us in, but he was letting a guy out the other side of the door. And as that guy came out past us, he was in a wheelchair. My mother did this, I think it was subconsciously, or I should have meant it, but she kind of just placed a hand over my hand. And that I read that and I was like, something's going on here. So this guy comes out past us and we walk into the hospital. And I just knew. I don't know how I knew. I don't know why I knew. I don't know what it was. But we walked out and my ma turned to me and she was like, you alright? And I was like, yeah, but you're not alright. What's up? And she was like, do you know who that was? I went, that was my dad, wasn't it?
Alright.
I don't know how I knew.
What was that like for you?
Strange. Very, very strange. The conflicting emotions between...
Was there more questions than answers then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I went to visit my Uncle Kenneth, and the next day we were going back up. My Uncle Kenneth had pancreas cancer. So he was in hospital, and we were constantly going up and visiting him. And the next day we went up to the hospital, and I get there and my Uncle Kenneth rings me and he's like, where are you, kiddo? And I was like, I'm just getting in. And he was like, right, I'm just going to tell you, but it's up to yourself what you want to do, but I'm letting you know that your outfit is in the hospital looking for you. He recognised you and your ma last night, and he's up in the hospital again today looking for you. So I'm at the scene him, he had a conversation with me, and I said, where is he? And he was like, he went down that ward. I was like, grand. So I took it upon kind of myself to go and do something he had never done, and that was I would go and introduce myself to him. You know, I would take that power and so I went down and I saw where he was, and he was in his wheelchair. He had an accident when I was only 2 years old, which I didn't know anything about, but it affected the part of his brain that works speech and mobility. So I went up to him and I looked down, and he
had a brain injury.
Yeah. So I looked down at him and I was like, James, and he was like, yeah. And I went, I'm Joanna's son, I'm Shane. And he started fidgeting and kind of shaking, and I was like, Jesus, what's going on? Like, I haven't a clue what's going on here.
Right.
But I said, you alright? What are you doing? He said, want to stand up. And I understood straight away. I was like, why? He was like, want to shake hand.
Right.
And I was like, oh, Jesus, that's nice. So I helped him stand up, shook his hand. He sat back down and he was like, how are you? And I heard you fight and all these type of things. And I was like, yeah. He was like, I used to fight. And I was like, that's mad. I said, listen, it's nice meeting you. And anyway,
yeah,
I'm probably see it around. And he was like, yeah, you should come up and visit me, blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, but I've had enough at that stage. I wanted to process what had happened, and
of course.
And I never forget, I turned my eyes, I turned my head to walk away, and I looked down the end of the corridor, and my poor mother was like a kid who was in bed and was trying to see if they could sneak out.
Creeping around the corner.
Was peeled around the corner, looking down, and I'll never forget the look of. She was just floods of tears, just like, and I remember just being completely unselfish at that moment and going, I'm not the one who's important here. Like, regardless of what I'm going through, my poor mother who's had to raise me for 22 years by herself, as an 18-year-old girl, this fella walked off and left her, and me here now as a man is standing beside him, and I couldn't help but just want to hug her, and I'm alright, like, he's never going to replace you, like, everything you've done for me, he will never add up to, like.
Wow.
But I went around to call an ex-girlfriend, the girl I was seeing at the time, and this person, my father, came behind me and tapped me. So I hung up the phone and said, what's up? He said, will you walk me down to the taxi rank? I said, no problem. And between walking from there to the taxi rank, I wanted to commit murder.
You didn't like him?
No, he just asked me some of the most ridiculous questions that a person who's done what he done doesn't get the right to ask. Like, he was asking me why I hadn't gone and visited him.
Right.
You know, why has it taken this long? And I'll never forget looking at his head, and he had a really dry scalp, and there was just lumps of dandruff in it. Okay. And I remember just wanting to bury my fist through the back of his head, like
the anger and
and since then I've never needed to see him. I closed that chapter of my life there. I was like, he doesn't bring anything to my life.
Just looking at pillars of your life, you know, we talked about your father, we talked about saying the bully and the thing. How did the court case, you know, you're involved in an incident in town which you were acquitted of, it was self-defence.
My life sounds all doom and gloom, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. Look, I'm super proud to be talking to you. You're a brave man. How did that, we won't get into the details of it, but how did that impact you? You know, we talk about layers, like the childhood, how did that impact you?
Well, I was 21. Yeah, 21. It was October 2011. And basically I'd gone out with a girl. It was her brother's birthday, we were out, and someone I knew was in the nightclub with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend had her friend with her. And long story short, these two girls and my now ex-girlfriend weren't getting along. So I tried to play the middleman, and I tried to talk to the guy, and I was like, because we knew each other, and I basically was like, look, I don't want trouble, I'm sure you don't want trouble, can we try I'll even stay at this end of the nightclub if you could stay down there. And he just like reacted completely opposite to how I expected. He just got aggressive and angry, and he was like, do you think because you fight I'm gonna do what you tell me to do, or am I supposed to be afraid of you? And I was like, I'm trying to look for the opposite of that. I'm trying to relax this situation before it escalates. Long story short, as I'm having a conversation with him, his girlfriend ended up assaulting me with 2 punches in my face. And to this day, I took the best steps of my life, which was I walked backwards, and I happened to walk backwards right underneath a CCTV camera. And basically this guy accused me of hitting his girlfriend, and I was like, what are you talking about? She just hit me. And then he had a glass in his hand, and he lifted it up, and it's clear as day on CCTV. I pointed my left hand at him, and I said, don't come near me, like I'm telling you. And he took one more step towards me and went to swing that glass, and I connected with his chin faster than he could connect with it. Like, I'm not wearing a scar on my face for anybody. Like, that's one of the things I said in court. Like, if someone's swinging a glass at me, like, I'm entitled to. I threw one strike, a preemptive strike. He unfortunately came off worse in it, and ended up emergency surgery that night on his jaw.
Absolutely, Jesus.
But I was charged with a whole litany of charges.
And that went down for a couple of years.
4 years. 4 years. And
so how did that impact your mental health?
My life couldn't progress. My life was constantly stuck. This case was just, it was struck out, then I was recharged, then I was struck out again, and then I was recharged. It was a horrible ongoing grey cloud that as such an important part of my life. You imagine a 21-year-old man, when my wings should be spreading and I'm starting to build a life. I couldn't. I was just constantly in court, and I'm not even talking about once every couple of months. I think I must have been in court 6-7 times every year. you know. And
I remember reading in the paper.
Yeah, they splashed it all over the paper. They made me look like the worst of the worst. And all along I had known I was innocent of what I was being accused of. But through the monotony of it just constantly going, I started to then think, maybe I actually am a scumbag. Maybe I really did, like, I didn't mean to, but maybe I did do what they say. And you started then.
Wow.
It was a horrible place to be, like. And I remember when it finally came to a head in 2015, like, my partner was pregnant. My son was due in a couple of months, and I was looking at 18 months in prison for defending myself and missing the birth of my child for self-defense. Now, 4 years of that, thankfully, 12 members of the jury, like, it got dismissed out of the district court. They refused the jurisdiction on it because the injuries are so severe. So I went to the circuit court, and I ended up facing a trial in front of 12 juries, in front of 12 people of a jury for one punch. Now, in fairness, one punch could kill a person.
Of course, I do see that all the time in my job.
They played the CCTV. They put us all on the stand. I never had to take the stand, but I took the stand because I knew my story, like, and I knew it was the truth. They had told all stupid stories where you could clearly see they had sat down and conspired. But once that CCTV was shown, 12 people in the jury found me unanimously not guilty.
Delighted.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
So it was a difficult period, that whole court case and all. Did you find after it that you were still struggling getting up the hill, you know, the hill of life? Because although, like, there's a joy and like, oh, I'm glad that's over, you're still carrying the stigma, you're still carrying the scars of the trial, the questions you have in your own mind, you know.
See, I had done a bit of travelling in 2012, and I'd went to Asia because this case had been struck out against me. And when I came back from Asia, the plan was to come back to save and fuck off again. Basically, like, I'd fell in love in Asia, like, with just the place, and I wanted to go back for longer. And I came back just to work through the Christmas period, work up until the summer, and then just leave again. And I came back and I was recharged. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was just constantly putting a delay on and a hurdle, and the obstacle was just too tall most times, and I couldn't handle it. So I started to drink out of fear, out of just not knowing. You know, you start to self-medicate because you're trying to, you don't know, you're looking. And I'm 6'4" with a big beard, and I'm supposed to be a tough guy. I wasn't. The idea of prison terrifies me, still does terrifies me. I'm not made for prison. I don't think anybody should want to go to prison, and I didn't want to wear that badge. That is not a badge I would be proud to wear. You know, I didn't want to go. I was, terrified.
Absolutely.
But I got cleared of that, thank God. And then that would have been March 2015, and then my son was born June 2015. So I was the happiest and the highest in my life I've ever been for them few months.
Yeah.
Like, it was, the case was over with. I was innocent. I could get a decent job now. I could actually start the career, because most people didn't want to touch me. You imagine 21 to 25, when everything is most important in your life and building something, building that nest for your future. No one would touch me. I got sacked from jobs because I was printed in the newspaper and with the most horrible headlines, big huge picture. Trying to get another job, then you're like, one of the questions on any job application or during any interviews, have you any criminal convictions? And I was always honest with it. No, I have no convictions, but I have a court case pending at the moment.
Wow.
Nope, don't want to touch you. You know, so I was in a pretty horrible position, which thankfully changed when my son was born.
Brilliant. Look, your life is a bit of a roller coaster, like us all. As we're painting it here, is going up and down. And, as you're saying, your life was starting to pick up again, and you had your son. Everything was going great, and then you experienced again, like the childhood. This is not a blame game, and you're not blaming your ex-partner. You broke up, and that led you to a dark place in your life.
Yeah, I think it was just an accumulation then of everything that had happened, where I just couldn't deal with it. Like, we broke up when my son was 6 weeks old, and I'm not, as I said, not going to play a blame game, but stuff happened, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I even look back at those days in my life, and I feel sorry for myself for going through it, if that makes sense, because it was just a lot. It was so much, like, you know what I mean?
We're actually going to take you back that way in a minute, because that's an interesting point, what you say, that you feel sorry for the person. I'm going to ask you a question in a minute about that. But at what point did you decide that you think it'd be best if you take your own life, and suicide was the option. I find that difficult even to say. So I really appreciate you sharing this with me.
The breakup had happened, and you know, not having grown up with my father in my life, one of the things that I was so certain I was going to be was an amazing father. Like, you know, as soon as I have a family of my own, I'm going to live my childhood vicariously through my child, and I'm going to, you know, get those memories back by doing it with my own child, and I will make sure my child is this. And you know, I was just so tied up in the idea of being a father, that when it happened, I was delighted with life. And then when that quickly went, I didn't see any way of being able to fix the relationship. I didn't know what was wrong with me, man. I didn't know why I was upset. I didn't know why a man of my age, at 24 years of age, with a job, with a newborn son, although the relationship had broke down, with so much to look forward to, I was crying myself to sleep every night. The blanket felt like it was 1,000 kilos every morning. You know, just the simple thing of taking the blanket off and making myself get out of bed was like one of the hardest things. And I was constantly asking myself, what is wrong, Shane? Why are you so upset? And I didn't have an answer. I did not know. I didn't like going to work. I would go into work and I was crying in the bathroom for periods of the day.
Wow.
It was just, I didn't have the answers. And because I've gone through it now, I can look back and I can go, oh, this is what was happening with me, or this is what was happening. But at the time, I had no answers. I wasn't educated on mental health or anything of that nature. You know, I'd never gone through it.
No one talks about that around here. No one talks about it in Jippy, but it's a difficult conversation, you know, especially, you know, I'm feeling down, or if you know, get on with it or whatever, you know, people don't know what to do with it, you know, so. But
I became really angry, like volatile, mood swings. Just, I wasn't a nice person to be around, you know. I wasn't like hurting anybody, but I constantly had this need to, like, my poor mother, my poor family, like, I would just constantly go down to them and talk about the same things, and the repetitive conversation, and why can't you fix it? Why won't you fix it? Would you help me? Would you do something here? Like, why won't you make my life back to the way it was?
You're trying to unravel a ball of wool in front of them, and they're like, what? They can't. They got their own shit as well, you know.
But I remember the specific that you asked what led to it. I remember the specific week. I was embarrassed of the man I thought I had become. You know, I'd expected more from myself. I had wanted more from myself, and I was embarrassed with who I was. I had lost a lot of weight because I wasn't eating food, didn't appeal to me. All I was doing was drinking coffee, and I must have drank like 6-7 cups of coffee a day. It was just constant. And the week, I just had a bad week, and I didn't know I was going to make the decision I had made. But I knew something was going to change. I knew I was going to... Something just had to change. It had to be different. There's no way I could live this way. Like, there's no way I can wake up constantly in a negative. Like, I was constantly waking up with, like... I had to get back to zero. I had to get back to normal just before I could even start my day, because I would wake up and my brain was setting this routine that this is wrong. The minute my eyes open, that's wrong. That's missing. That's lacking. You don't have this. And just... my own head hurt me. Like, between my ears was just a constant, like, it was painful, you know, and you're trying to, and then because you're going through this situation, people then start to avoid you, you know. Oh, there's Shane, like, or he's going to have this conversation, or he's going to cry in front of us. So people then start to avoid you, and then before you know it, my phone wasn't beeping as much, it wasn't ringing as much, you know. You start to lose friends, and people aren't coming around as much, and then I was just blaming myself. And then
they can't cope, you know.
But I started to then put my issues onto them people, and I was saying, I'm doing that to them.
Right.
Look at me. Look at the pain I'm causing my family. Look what I'm doing to my friends. I'm now the burden. I went to work. It was a Thursday. Woke up at 6. Went to work. Was in work straight away. I was like, nope, not staying here today. Went out, called the manager. I said, I'm going home. She's like, what's wrong? I said, I'm not well. There was no even fear. You know, when you're telling your boss you're going home from work, you're like, oh, Jesus. I was like, no, I'm not well. And she was like, okay. Went home, tried to make myself go to sleep, couldn't sleep. So, self-medicate, went to the pub. Had 3 pints of Guinness. I was like, nah, this still isn't satisfying me. I remember the Craze film was after coming out. Tom Hardy played both twins, called Legend. And I was sitting in the pub and the paper was there.
Yeah.
And I saw it was on at 1:20. So I said, right, I'll go see that film. It'll burn a few hours. It will distract me.
Yeah.
But I bought a bottle of whiskey on the way, a litre bottle of whiskey, and I went into the cinema, and I don't even know that film, to be honest with you. I just sat there drinking a bottle of whiskey. Left the cinema, got home, and picked up the phone and just started to ring people, crying my eyes out, saying sorry. Don't know what I was saying sorry for. I was just an emotional wreck.
Cry for help.
I did, yeah. At this stage, I wasn't Shane anymore. Shane was gone. He wasn't there. It was me, but the way I was acting, it wasn't me. Like, I rang my mother, I rang my friends. I rang my ex-partner, I rang her mother. And I don't know what I was looking for, but I was looking for someone to fix it, and no one had an answer for me. No one should have had an answer for me. It wasn't, it's a hard situation to put someone in. And I rang my cousin Sean, and I was crying. He was like, "Are you alright?" I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And he was like, "Do you want me to come up to you?" When he said, "Do you want to come up to me?" I was like, "No, look, I'm grand." I stopped the tears. I was like, "Look, I'm grand. Don't worry about me. I'm being silly." Hung up, and I was like, "Nah, they don't want me. None of them love me anymore, and I'm causing them issues." So I had a 10-meter Ethernet cable that I used to run from my PlayStation into the socket so that I could play PlayStation online. And I don't know, it just popped into my head. Just literally, there's your answer, Shane. Your son won't have to grow up with a disappointing father. Your family won't have the black sheep. You won't be the issue anymore. You'll be out of everyone's life, and they can get on and be happy. Look at the mess you are. You're causing this for everybody. So there was no sunshine in the world anymore, man. There was you're walking home, and I'm looking at people's eyes, and I'm wanting to scream and shake them, and just but nobody has an answer, and I didn't have an answer. But I took that electrical cable, I went out in my backyard. It was a roofed backyard, so no one could see me, and there was wooden beams going across the top, and I climbed up on the window ledge. I reached over one of the beams, tied a knot in it, put the cable around my throat, and there was no fight in me to stop myself. There was nothing in me saying, "Why? What are you doing? Hold on a minute, this isn't normal behaviour." Everything in my body was like, "It's gonna be over. This is it now. Your son's gonna be happy, your ma'll be happy, everyone's gonna be happy. Sure, look, no one even rings you. No one's ringing you now. You rang all these people, no one's at your door."
Wow.
And I remember I had my knees on the window ledge, and I just, I let my knees go. And the crazy thing was, I didn't even struggle. I didn't even want to struggle. I was happy. Everything just stopped. And next thing you know, I'm on the tiles of my kitchen floor. And I remember coming to and kind of just seeing there was a tube down my throat. And there's a lot of ambulance men. And there was people screaming, and crazy things were happening. And I passed out again, and then I came to again in the ambulance. And I passed out again, and I came to again in the hospital. And when I first opened my eyes, my mother and my stepfather were there, and I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to go as far as it went.
No one does. I deliver training in the hospital, suicide assist trained, and I deliver safe talk to other staff members. No one wants to die. People want just the pain to stop. They want to stop. They don't really want to give up on life.
That's one of the elements. So because it was literally my initial feeling. As soon as I was awake, it was, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that, and that's what breaks my heart with stuff like mental health, is because I managed to wake up, or I was managed to be woken up because I was resuscitated. The ambulance men, thank God, because my cousin Sean, from the phone call with me, didn't like how I sounded, took it upon himself to come up. When he didn't get an answer on my door, he kicked my door in.
I heard that story.
And cut me down, so I can't even imagine me seeing that. I couldn't imagine walking in and seeing that situation, and to have put him kind of through that. And I'm forever grateful that he was able to handle that situation the way he did. Yeah, but the heartbreaking thing about it is I didn't mean it, or I didn't want that, but I was brought back, And whenever I hear, and especially in this area, like, there's a bench just across the road, and there's a plaque, and there's all the names of these people.
Tree of Hope they've ever crossed there, you know.
I think of all the poor people who didn't get a second chance, who didn't get the chance I got. So I feel like I owe it not just to myself, but almost to try help other people if I can, to be honest, and talk about it and admit that this is real life, this does happen.
Absolutely. Well, looking back at it now, what would have helped you? Like, what was missing then? Or was that just gonna it was
I closed up, man. I was very hard on myself. Although I wanted help, I didn't initiate anything to get help.
Running around a maze, you didn't know.
Yeah, my poor brain was just going constantly, but it was never of reaching out. It was I didn't want, like, even though I was talking to people about it, I didn't want them to know how bad I was, because I'd be embarrassed, you know.
That's my next thought was your perception of yourself, when I say that, you know, what you think people perceive, you know, like, I'm 6'4", I'm like MMA, K1, it's called K2, KLF. I do all this. I should be able to handle this. This is not what fighters do. This is not what 6'4" lads do. I'm not getting into the whole man thing or the sexist thing, but you perceive I should be well able for this. You know, so then again, you're beating yourself with another stick. Did that have an impact?
Yeah. See, I had, to give you an analogy, I had built my raft, and I had prepared myself for the rapids, but I hadn't loaded on what I needed for them rapids. The rapids I hit were not rapids I ever thought I was going to hit in life, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I was not ready for those kind of feelings, like the unknowing, the emptiness. It just seems like. Do you ever see a movie and it's like post-apocalyptic, and it's grey, and it's like everybody's fearful, you know, that when there's nothing in the world but fear. That was the world to me, you know what I mean? It was a horrible place to be. Yeah, but I didn't want to reveal too much how upset and how hurt and how much I was crying, because, you know, I'm supposed to be a man. I'm supposed to be this tough guy, like, you know. What am I going to tell people? How can I tell people that breaking up with a girl has turned me into the bloke who is in bed crying his eyes out?
Look, again, it's not a blame thing, you know. Look, I'm going through that period in my own life right now, and it's the most difficult thing I've ever come across. Absolutely, and it can affect people in any way, you know. It's tough. Life is difficult. Like, just from the get-go, life is difficult. Very, very difficult. You put a post up, and I'm not on Facebook. You put a post up, and it was a long post, and I read it, and it brought me to tears today. That was very honest and open and powerful and brave to a man or a woman, whoever does it is brave to do something like that and shown a vulnerability, and I'm really, really impressed by that. But what would have struck me was, what was the reaction from your community, i.e. your fighting crowd, the kickboxing, the MMAs, the tough guys, you know, because I'm not slagging them off, you know, but that's built around strength, honour, bravery, being tough mentally, physically.
Not being weak.
Not being weak. And then suicide, people would perceive it as being weak. You took the easy option. You try to kill yourself, whatever. How was that accepted for you? Well,
the first thing that the way most people reacted was they were shocked. Because I had always presented myself differently to how I was actually feeling.
Of course.
You know, to the people that knew me, I would go off and I would moan and I would cry and have my rants. But as soon as you step outside that circle, you know, these are the people who know me, I can be myself here. But as soon as you step outside that, the smile would go on, the hair would get done up, I'd wear the nice clothes, and then people just assume your life is great.
Assumptions, yeah.
But the first reaction was shock. It was like, I would never have thought you were going or have gone through what you're talking about. The second was fair play to you. The third would have been, be honest, the bit distance. Some people, and I don't just mean in the martial arts world, but I mean in all life, there's distance. People kind of, they don't want to be around that. You know, that ideology and mentality is not something that sits well with them. Like,
it's infectious.
Yeah, like you're gonna. But you get a lot, and you get a lot of people who feel that way, who reach out. You know, they offer the hand, but then when you need to grab that hand, it's not there, and that's no fault of their own. They doing what they think society, like if someone's going through a hard time, they involuntarily say, "Oh, look, if you ever need a chat, I'm here." But most of the time, that chat isn't there. Yeah, and it's no fault if they're on. Listen, life happens. Everybody has a life to live.
Link zip or lip sync, you know, they just say these words, you know, again, people don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? People, I always say, and I was only talking this to Maeve Nolan, the clinical psychologist out of the job the other day, they say, let's talk, keep talking. But I've said to people have asked me, like, how are you feeling today? And I've often said to someone, I'm not great. And I've seen their face
The
drop.
body language changes instantaneously.
They just don't know what to do. And I don't go, Jesus, you're some help. I just go, look, that's just difficult for them. Do you know what I mean? You know, people say, ring me, and they want to show you support, but they don't know that you're going to call in them chips.
Yeah, literally. But we're not built to deal with people like that. This isn't something we're educated on. We don't know how. We just offer whatever phrase comes to mind that we've heard someone else say in a movie or we read in a book because that's what sounds right. Oh, look, listen, you ever need anything, I'm here. If you ever need me, if it's 3 a.m, if you're going to do that again, Shane, ring me, whatever. Like, not that I've ever attempted it again, but most people tend to distance themselves. You become a black cloud, unfortunately.
And my mate, as you know, knows that I do have struggles myself of the mind, and I'd be telling him, he goes, "You're not going to do anything stupid now, are you?" Like, straight away, you don't say that to someone. And obviously, I've went through training, I know about suicide training. You don't, because that again, then is telling somebody that's stupid. You're going to do something stupid, not to do it. But that's his way of doing it. But you know what? This should be taught in school instead of giving us religion studies. It should be mental health, emotional intelligence. Teach kids, like, it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel sad, this is what you do. It's like a season, it'll pass. Just like the winter comes the summer, the autumn, spring, whatever, it will pass. But we're not told about that, and you think, oh, this is doom and gloom forever. Yeah,
and it literally feels when you're going through it.
And if you knew as a child, you'd go, do you know what, someone told me before about this will pass. And it generally does. Like mental health and feeling shit, it goes through waves. You're not always, the brain just won't last that long. And you'll come out of it. You might dip back in, but you will come out of it. And
it's recognising that, and if you can reinforce that belief in yourself, like you're someone who's unbelievably strong that way. Like, you're able to reinforce these. Like, I wasn't.
No,
I just collapsed. As I said, I lost loads of weight.
Very hard to see in the eye of a shitstorm.
I didn't know what it was. I just felt like I was infested and infected with parasitic.
You couldn't put a name
on it. No, and I still couldn't
name the feelings. You couldn't name the.
Put it this way: if you say to anybody or anybody listening there, you cannot call or name something you don't want to. Like, I don't know how I'm feeling when I just can't get out of bed. When I'm sitting, I wake up and the first thing that happens is tears run down my eye and I can't get out of bed. I don't know what that is. I try to tell myself, you're being a fucking bitch. What are you doing? But I can't lift the duvet off. The idea of going out into the open world is like, no, I can't. I just want to go to sleep and I want it to disappear forever.
Again, it goes back to anything you do, it's insight and awareness. It's building insight and awareness around your own mental health. I mean, like I've talked about this before, you wouldn't go on X Factor if you had insight and awareness, knew you're a shit singer. But people don't have the insight and awareness, and they go on and sing, go, no one ever told me it's brutal. Same with mental health. Now you can put names on it, you can put rationale to it, you can call it out.
In a way, it's like, it's gone from being heavily stigmatized to it's so out in the open now that I people bother me now when it comes to, like, because Sandra on a Sunday afternoon is depressed, not because she actually has depression, but because she was on a night out before and she doesn't know how to deal with a hangover. Like, I'm sorry, you don't get to call that depression, or Sean is waiting in queue 10 minutes too long, so now all of a sudden he has anxiety and he's going to have an attack if this queue just doesn't hurry up. But it's like, no, you're labeling this with the wrong things, like your ignorance, and that isn't, it's taken away from someone who actually is suffering from depression and anxiety.
It's funny you're saying that, because I sat down with Maeve Nolan, I was saying to you earlier, and she deals with spinal people, spinal wheelchairs, and people are just quick to label depression. She said a lot of the times it's not depression, it's just resilience. They need to work on their resilience and deal with it. But people are quick to label depression, give some antidepressants. It's anxiety, give antidepressants. We're quick to just jump in and call them.
I resisted the antidepressants for a long, long time.
Yeah. I
thought, nah, I don't want to jump straight into medication. I don't want to medicate myself. I don't want to become someone who I'm not. I didn't know. I'd always say that fear of, what is the medication going to do to me?
It changes you biochemically. That's what it does for you.
Yeah, and when I did eventually...
But looking back now, do you think you have a biochemical problem? or do you think you have a processing problem? You have you had a problem processing all the information that was going on. What's your thoughts on that?
I think I was on a cruise ship and I fell into the middle of the ocean, and all of a sudden I couldn't swim, but I was trying to swim to keep myself afloat. That's the way I would describe it.
But you don't think it's a biochemical thing, do you?
No, because I think a biochemical thing would insinuate that I swam out too far in the ocean and then I couldn't deal with it. So I
that's some funky ass
analogy. But that's to me what it felt like is I was in the middle of the ocean. Mm-hmm. It was pitch black, and I was doing my best just to stay afloat. You know. That's how I would call it. But I don't know what issues I had. I don't think I had a chemical issue, because when I did eventually try antidepressants, they didn't work with me. They didn't work at all.
They have a small effect, like, you know, just like exercise has a small effect on improving your mood. So does eating well, so does sleeping well. They all, like what we talked before, keeping your ducks in a row. Like, you can be having a shit life and then take antidepressants and it won't work. But if you get all the other ducks in a row and then these come on board, or they can have an effect. And we're not knocking them. Yeah, you know. Back to the MMA side of things, it's just interesting our conversations about mental health and feeling weak, are they happening in clubs in that circuit? Is that a
but there's a guy I know called Paul Brady who he does he's running I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but he basically raises money for Aware, where he basically goes around all these different clubs and he does jiu-jitsu, like, and he raises money that way and raises awareness. But martial artists and fighters specifically, they're people who struggle a lot with their mental health. You think about how mentally demanding that sport is. Like, at the end of the day, like, you're not going and playing football with the lads once or twice a week and then you have your match on the Saturday. Like, this is like a sport where you go into and your training session is getting a busted nose or a busted lip. Like, you know, it's got to happen.
Absolutely.
It's hard on the body, and then it's a really hard sport because it's mentally demanding and draining, because this ideology that a man is this, and then women do it as well, like, but who you're supposed to be as a fighter, and sometimes you're not that. Sometimes you break, sometimes you want to quit, sometimes you look for that way out, and then you're beating yourself up over that. Oh boy, am I not that man I thought I was? Can I not fight? And
so not only is, and we talked about this on your podcast, not only is it physically difficult, it's psychologically difficult. Then you're talking the nutrition side, and that's when we're saying, like, you're always on the back foot. Do you know what I mean? So you're sleeping all over the shop, your eating's all over the shop, you're tired. And
now, not all the time. Like, the benefits I've got from martial arts have heavily outweighed the negatives.
Your stuff wasn't related to the martial arts. Your difficulties in the mind, your life. That's been a huge benefit to you and a huge.
Like, and I know I probably talked about a lot of doom and gloom stuff, but the only reason I'm able to talk about it, and because we were going to touch on mental health, is because I'm in the position now of being in a good place. Like, and I've had good things happen throughout my life, as much as I've had bad things, as everybody does. But I wasn't equipped to deal with the bad things as we are the good things. The good things is like, yeah, whatever, like, you know, life is great. But we're not equipped to deal. Yeah, we're not equipped to deal with the bad things at all. So what advice I would give is, of course, reach out and talk. But I would tailor who you talk to. I wouldn't tell everybody.
Absolutely.
And the reason why is because you then get too much. It's because your conversation then becomes their conversation, and then you're seeing everybody, and everybody is reminding you, how are you today? How's the head? Are you in a good place?
Of course,
and when you're having a good day and someone has that conversation with you, it's like, oh fuck, now they think I'm a mental case.
Yeah,
you know.
I understand. Question for you: what advice would you give to your little Shane, your little self,
Kingsley, or my son, or old me?
Old you, little you.
If I could go back to myself, as a child, and give myself some advice, accept it. These things are gonna come. Know that when they come, it's gonna be okay. It's okay to cry. I do it with my own son now.
Kingsley's a deadly name. When
Kingsley cries, he says sorry. I'm like, no need to say sorry. It's okay to cry. You can cry. Even things like, if we walk through a toy shop and he says, or if we walk through a clothes shop and he sees the girls section, he's like, Daddy, only girls can wear that. I'm like, no, you can wear it if you want. Yeah. Like, I refuse to let my son be defined by society's perception.
That's savage.
Not that, like, I want them wearing girls' clothes, but I don't want to reinforce it. No, you can't. You know, that's because that's where the issues come from. You know, societies, and that's where I've come to look at life now. And I think when we revert back to what we are, we're humans.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not fulfilling ourselves as humans. We're not living the life of a human. We're living a life what society demands us to live. We go to restaurants.
We're domesticated. We're
institutionalized.
We're domesticated,
which is
like
probably
dogs.
worse, because when you look at the guy who's done 50 years in prison, he gets out, hates the world. Oh my God, that's almost, society has institutionalized. So when we're outside that element or that comfort that society gives you, it's scary.
We're gone from DMC to philosophy.
Yeah, but no, I genuinely do. And a guy I looked up was Johan Hari, and he was on an episode of Joe Rogan. But he spoke, and he helped me so much, because what he said was basically, we're too quick to give antidepressants, we're too quick to label these things. Most of the time, we're just not living the way we should be. We're living the way we think we should be. But we're not supposed to be really in cement blocks. Then we go from one cement blocks, then we wake up, we have a coffee, and we go put ourselves in another cement block. And we spend 8 hours there, and then we go back to the other cement block. But in the meantime, we might go where society says it's acceptable to eat. Or then we might go and drink where society says it's acceptable to drink. And we might wear the clothes that is popular at the moment. And all of the time we're chasing something we're not going to get, because society is going to change. Like if you look back into the 60s, what a housewife thought was a perfect life back then, a woman wouldn't live that way now. Neither would a man. So it's not society's acceptance. And that goes back to what I said, from the womb to the tomb, with the idea of acceptance. Like, I don't need to be accepted anymore. And that's one of the most powerful things I have freed myself from. That's why I was honest and I opened up about all this, because the idea that someone else could reveal it about me, like someone who knew if they said it or they told anybody, oh, I can't have that.
Right.
So I took my power back. And it's the same thing with society in this day and age. I don't need to be anything for anybody else. I be who Shane needs to be for him, and I take it day by day. Every day, I don't look too far ahead. I live in the now. I don't know whether I'm going to wake up tomorrow, Matt. That's not being a pessimist. That's being real.
Cool.
And I try to just focus on the day that's in it and living now.
Well, you've just answered my next question. I was going to say, because I've spent a bit of time with you the last couple of weeks. You and Kev helped me with my podcast. I could be lost without you, and you seem to be in a great place. That's answered my question, why you're in that place. And you touched on there, like, oh, you come across doom or gloom, and your life is not. I don't find you one bit doom or gloom. You're very infectious. I don't mean as in a disease, but I mean you're charismatic. You're creative. You're full of life. Like, you're just full of life. You're honest. When we have conversations, it's real. It's not bullshit conversation. It's real, authentic, and it comes from an experience, and that's savage. You know what I mean? So what else do you do to keep your mind?
Well, I have to busy myself, because I find if I don't busy myself, I tend to sit with my thoughts. And anybody who knows who sits with their thoughts, if you can control the direction your thoughts go in, all good. You can direct that and drive that towards the good and the creative side of you. Great. But those days, and we all know, we all have bad days when my thoughts go to the negatives. And then I'm looking at my life and I don't like where my life is and all these kind of crazy things. I find busying myself and finding something you can get better at and you see the results. Do counselling, stick to your counsellor, like build up a rapport where it becomes easy to open up, and every time you have that session, either weekly or fortnightly, you drop off some luggage that you didn't even know you were carrying. You go to your counsellor, you sit down, you go, thanks very much, you take that off me. And you build up that rapport. And as I said about the shoelaces, you know what I mean? If you can see yourself getting better at tying them shoes, and then eventually you're doing it, we're not even looking at your foot. That motivates me, and I know it motivates other people endlessly. Like, no, I'm getting better here. Look what I'm making.
Absolutely.
And I'm busy in my mind, and I write, and I draw, and I'm doing the media, and I'm training, and I'm trying all these things.
Absolutely. As Blind Boy just saying, the podcast it's finding I love Blind Boy's podcast. You'll hear me talk about it all the time. He talks about state of flow. When you're being creative, you find your state of flow. I didn't think I'd find flow by doing a podcast. We were recording stuff last week, and I found, wow, an hour went by and I didn't know what was going on. It was gone.
Yeah.
So that was flow. And I find when you're having a shit day or you're feeling a bit down or whatever, getting into a state of flow, no matter what it is It does help, doesn't it?
But everything slows down as well. Like when you're having a shit day.
Yeah.
Like you look at the clock constantly. Oh, it's only 5 past now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only half past now. Jesus, this day is endless. And that's because we sit and we only pay attention to the negatives. We're only paying attention to the negatives and the bad. Look, at the end of the day, if you're sitting somewhere with either earphones plugged into your smartphone, your laptop, and you're picking up a signal from something that is invisible in the sky that some smart genius once invented called the internet, and you're sitting down on a comfortable chair, or you're on your public transport that you've had the money to pay for, or you're sitting in your fancy car that you had the money to buy, and you're listening to me and Matt talk, you are so blessed. If you don't wake up every day and realize where you are in your life and be thankful and grateful for what you have and what you don't have, or over what you don't have, you're already so positive. And that was my issue, Matt. I woke up and I only acknowledged the negatives. Whereas now when I wake up, I do some, like, it took me, I had to leave notes around the house. So I'd leave a note on my bathroom mirror. I'd leave it on the back of my bedroom door. I was leaving notes all around the place to just reinforce, you're alive today, Shane. Smile. Just the act of smiling. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes you feel good. Whereas sitting and just acknowledging all the bad, and I don't have this and I need money for that. Like, do you need the money for that now? No, you're thinking about the loan that you have to pay next week. Okay, well then worry about that next week when that day comes. Don't worry your Tuesday over next Friday. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, give yourself credit for where you are. Be happy for what you have, and be easy on yourself. You know, like
self-compassion.
Yeah.
Like, I'm empathetic and I'm compassionate towards people at work or people that I see not doing so well in life. I'm like, oh man, I feel for that person. Jeez, I'd love to help them out. But sometimes I'm not so like that with myself, and we do that. You know what I mean? And working on self-compassion and accepting yourself, just like you spoke about earlier, which was quite powerful. We need to keep reminding ourselves of that, because we've been on autopilot for a long time, and we do it as humans. You know, we go back to autopilot. Oh, it's miserable, I'm down. It takes to create the behaviours, like going to the gym. Go a couple of times, you start getting into the rhythm. Just like practicing gratuity or positive things in your mind. Just keep practicing it. Today might be shit, the next day might be shit, but then all of a sudden you're going, this actually is alright. Gratuity,
as you just said, like, it's literally one of the most beneficial things ever. Like, if you can see, like, even in this room we're sitting in, Matt, like, this is your home. Like, this is your paradise.
This is the ghetto.
Yeah, but you know, like, and if ever days you're feeling down, or I do it myself where I am, I look around me, right? I have a beautiful son. I have a phone that I can ask anything and I'll get an answer in God knows how quick time.
Siri.
I have the ability to get up. I have money in my pocket. I can go places. And that's the good thing that I've learned through counselling and through my experience with my mental health issues was I wasn't able to tell myself these things. Whereas now when I'm having a bad day, I can have a conversation with myself. Okay, Shane, what's wrong with you? What actually is the problem today? And then I'm like, okay, it's this. Okay, can you fix it today? No. Is there anything you can do to benefit yourself? Yeah, well, I can talk to this person, or I can go and do this, or I can go to the gym, or I can go get a massage, or I can do all these different things that can alleviate this weight or this presumption of weight. And just try release it and let it go and live for that day.
Savage. That's a savage bit of advice.
But I think people should open up more. But as I said, be careful about who you open up to. Not everybody deserves to know who you are. Not everybody deserves your energy. Be selfish a little bit. Speak to the right people, but don't be afraid to ask for help.
Which is Brene Brown. She's a lady that talks about shame and fear and intimacy and all this, but she just talks about, you know, you don't open up to the people that haven't turned up in the arena with you, that haven't fought the fight. If they're not, you know, they don't deserve to know your vulnerability. You know. So
well, I found I went through a phase of telling everybody. I just wanted people to know. I thought I had to. You know, I was like, oh, listen, I went through this. And then before you know, like, just people stop coming around. Like,
you know, that's a learning curve as well.
Yeah, like, whereas I would do things like this now, or I was on, I told you about this before, Ray Darcy, like, where I told national radio what I had been through. Why? Not because I'm looking for any accolades or badges to say I've been through, but because there's so many people out there who don't know, who aren't equipped, who are probably going through it right now, who don't have the answers, and I'm trying to reveal myself as them. I've gone through the exact same. Some days I still go through.
You're basically holding up a mirror for them and saying,
I'm just trying to let you know, like, let anybody know. Look, the person you look up to most, the person that you may have had a poster on your wall of, the sports star you love, the model that you fancy the most, the billionaire that you aspire to be like, guess what? They feel shit as well.
Yeah.
Like,
they goddamn humans.
Exactly, like, you know what I mean? Like, we're all human, and we're all...
But we all do that, don't we? Look, oh, your man over there, Larry, he has a great life, and Bernie, oh, jeez, I wish
grass is always greener on the other side.
But just as difficult to cut that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, again, I have to say, I'm very proud of you as a human being. I was going to say male, and I want to get away from the sexist thing, male to this and male. It's difficult for everyone, for someone to say that they're vulnerable and get on Facebook and put that post, to come on this now and talk about it. You know, it's super impressive, you know, and I'm really, really proud to...
Thank you. When I did put that post up, like, it got shared hundreds and hundreds of times. It got thousands of likes or whatever it was. But the Pandora's box that opened for me was, I then became... I was in not in a horrible position, but I was in the position then where people who were going through what I was describing reached out to me. And it was terrifying. It was, because I don't have the training skills to deal with that. I was very aware of how what's the word I'm looking for, the precarious position they were in. Like, when you're that deep down the rabbit hole and have your mental issues, your life literally can balance on it like a thread. And one wrong word or one bad sentence or one thing that doesn't seem supportive, or if they message you or call you and you don't answer, or you just don't know where a person's mind is, and it can break very easily. But that terrified me. So every time someone got in touch with me, I would engage with them, but I would recommend someone more than me. You know, like, I'm not an expert. I don't have all the answers. I'm just someone who went through it and is willing to talk about it. But I was lucky enough to have Pieta House, and I went through their program, and I had an amazing counsellor. Paul is his name, and that, knowing every week of a Tuesday I was going to get to go and talk to Paul. That's why I said, if you can pinpoint or even go and get counselling. And the thing with counselling is it's so expensive these days. It's so hard. But if you can get even cheap, affordable counselling, or if you can get into Pieta House or anything like that, knowing that no matter what amount of shit was building up, I was going to get to alleviate it from myself and talk about it and be honest about it. And only when you start really being honest with yourself and what you're going through, I find, is when your treatment works.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Lying to yourself solves nothing. It's like, you know, pretending that you're on a diet and you're going to the gym, but then you go home and you're under your bed, you have, you know,
Barley burgers.
Yeah, everything, you know, and you're just eating it. Like, it's the same thing. Your treatment only really starts working when you're really honest.
Absolutely. And if anybody has any difficulty, like, drop me a line on Matt at magicminds.ie. You know, if you just want to touch base and have a chat about, I'll point you in the right direction of services used, or if I can be a help, I can email you or yourself a
same thing as well. Like, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, it's s-kirk@hotmail.com, or you can go onto Instagram, and Deshaun Kirkwood is my Instagram. I just think the creatures that we are, and what we're capable of so much more, and we're capable of helping people. Like, and when the days do get hard, and sometimes those days turn to weeks, and that week turned into a month, and then before you know it, a year has passed, and you can't break the cycle. That's not your fault, and it's okay that you're stuck.
It's okay, you're normal.
Like, how good it is to be stuck. Like, imagine you could have gone so far into a life that you didn't want, or it's like that relationship that you knew wasn't right, but you stayed in it for 10 years, and then it's harder to get out of because it's now this length and so much has gone into it. The same with your mental health. Being stuck is still a position of knowing where you are. Like, it feels shit, but you know, there's a certain brilliance to being on the bottom rung of the ladder, and that is the only way is up. And I know that's cliche, and it's what people, you don't understand what I'm going through was much more than that. And it's like, no, like, let's just take it back, right? If you're not the biggest man on your road, go back into your house. Are you the biggest man in your house? No, you're still not the biggest man in your house. Okay, take it back even some more. Walk into your bedroom. Are you the biggest man in your bedroom? Yeah, okay, no, that's where you're comfortable. Now we're going to work from there. Now we're going to work on getting you out of the bedroom, right? And once you feel comfortable with who you are, and they're the type of things you need to be addressing. Just constantly try to search, what is the answer? Where am I going wrong? Most of the time it's your brain. Most of the time, you know, you get into a routine. That, I think of the routine, the brain takes 30 days to change it. negativity and thoughts like that can become that routine where you don't even realise it.
Of course, you just slip back into autopilot. You know, do your gratuity 30 days. It becomes a behaviour, and then the brain becomes trained. And yeah, absolutely.
Just there's so many options that people can
find
take.
what works for you. As I was telling to maybe no one else, you know, be mindful, go to the gym, eat properly, don't drink. There's so many, sleep properly, friends. Find what's good for you. There's no one shoe fits all.
I found sleep and nutrition.
Oh, sleep is
sleep
up there.
and nutrition.
Do what a baby does.
Mm.
You know, sleep, breathe, eat, sleep, breathe. Oh yeah, and shit. You know, the babies do that too. Whatever a baby does, do. Sleep a lot, eat.
Good analogy. I never looked at it like that.
What's that? The baby?
Doing what a baby does.
Ah, baby.
Because one of the things,
breathing is up there. Sleep.
I don't know about you, but like
sleep.
if you have some hard days, but sleep becomes impossible.
Oh, yeah,
because you can't shut the
absolutely.
brain off.
No, yeah.
You're just
Ruminating.
constantly just,
the train goes,
and you're answering questions that you haven't even had asked.
Yeah.
You're coming up with scenarios, and you're trying to.
Your brain ain't not your friend. It's
No,
like, his brain is like a bad neighborhood. Sometimes you just don't need to go in there on your own. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just don't trust that motherfucker.
And if you can, just sit down and be real with yourself. If you don't want to be real with the outside world, if you can sit down with yourself once a week, if you don't have a counselor, get a notepad, and you can burn that notepad if you want to, but sit down and ask yourself, what really is wrong here? Why am I feeling the way I am? And be honest. You know how hard it is to be honest and tell yourself that you're crying over a girl? You don't want to admit that. You don't want to tell yourself that. Or you're crying because you didn't grow up with your own father. You know, like, if you can't be honest with other people, be honest with yourself and put it down on paper, or tell your counsellor, and then reread it.
Isn't it?
Reread it if you have to, or burn it straight away and let that go. It's okay to feel the way you're feeling. Most people have that shame, that stigma. Oh gosh, no, I can't tell the lads I feel this way. Well, you don't have to tell the lads, but doesn't mean you have to lie to yourself as well.
Absolutely, that's powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. It's a journey, and it's hard, but the destination isn't the important place. The destination and where you're going or how you're going to get there, just getting there is the important place, and going with the flow.
Absolutely. And your journey, you know, you said earlier, my doom and gloom, but no, your life is going super. You know what I mean, you got your podcast going, the modelling. You're a star reporter.
I don't really do the modelling as much anymore. No. I try. It's like, it's commercial modelling. It's anybody can do it.
But the podcast is going well.
Yeah, and I did that program 4 states, and I got the piss taken out of me because they called me a part-time model. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Sure, they're just looking for viewers. But even on that, like, I found with issues of mental health, I could have went on 4 states, and I could have sold the sub story to probably get myself extra TV time, and I could have. For me, it just felt like it was the wrong place to discuss. You know what I mean?
You don't do anything for $1, as you said.
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to benefit TV time by talking about stuff like that. Like, with this podcast, we're sitting down and this is what the topic is.
Yeah.
But I just don't like using mental health to try gain. You know, because some people abuse it. You know, so
deadly.
Deadly.
Look, I'm after burning the ears off you and holding you on for.
To be honest with you, I could. I don't even know how long this is, but I could go for another hour. As I said, I love conversations. I love real conversations.
Not only was this good for my podcast, I just love having the chats with you because you're an honest and genuine dude. You know what I mean? I see that in your eyes. And again, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I'm really, really impressed. It's a powerful story. It's motivating for me. It's inspiration. It's an education. I hope people get what I've got from it and what you get from it. You know, so if you've enjoyed the show, please leave a delicious, beautiful review on iTunes. If you want to get in touch, you have our details. I must say to you, go and have a look at Scrap Job. If you're into combat sports, not only is the podcast savage because the lads know their shit, but it's actually the spectacle, the view. It's a cool view. You have deadly lighting.
Thank you very much.
I'm not blown, so I'm not a combat sports fan, but I just love the setup. And I've shown it to other combat sports lads, mates of mine that do MMA, and they went, "That is deadly. It looks the bollocks." So fair play.
If I can leave your listeners with like a parting message, just to try and instill a bit of strength or belief, if I can. Like, you won't wake up in the morning. You're not going to let anybody else dress you. You know what I mean? You're going to put on what you want to wear, yeah? And you're going to go to work and you're going to earn your money. No one else you're going to allow to dress or dictate what you do with your day. You know what I mean? The same way you don't allow someone that power over you, don't allow someone else to force you to feel stigmatized or feel bad because you don't feel the way they feel. You know what I mean? Take your power back. As I said, if you're not the biggest person on your road, take it back to the house. If you're not the biggest person in your house or the strongest person in your house, take it back to the room. Go to your point where you are that alpha. Recognize within yourself what are your issues, and don't be afraid. Overcome them. Talk about them. Put yourself out there. Get yourself creative. Get yourself something that you can drive towards, something that you can see results coming through. And open up and don't be afraid. The world is a big bad place out there, but only if you want it to be that. I've rambled on enough there.
Deadly, thanks. Okay, guys, thanks very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Again, thanks to Shane.
And thanks very much for having me on.
From Scrap Chat and Kev from Scrap Chat. This podcast wouldn't be off the ground. Thanks to them. And Niall Riley from Rooney Graphics. Me mate is my graphic designer and my go-to guy.
Big up Rooney Graphics.
Absolutely, big up Rooney Graphics. Right, wherever you are in the world, go off, mind yourself, show yourself some self-compassion and accept yourself.
And be good to yourself.